So, welcome back to part 2 of my FS-FlightControl tool of the trade. We're still at the parking position, and one thing I'm going to do now is we're going to look at the aircraft menus or the possibilities that you have with aircraft. So, for example, we can turn on the master battery by clicking here or clicking here. I can also turn on the no smoking, the seat belts. You can see that these things moved here, and we're basically now having electricity here on the airplane, and also our ISG stuff has come up, so we can quickly go through this here. It's probably a slightly older ARAC, but that doesn't matter. Echo Delta Delta Tango. Okay, let's go here to Echo November Golf Mike. Okay, just to set something up here. And we're going to change the into map mode. Okay. Right. So that's all I want to do with the aircraft at the moment. Now let's go through the menus here. So for one, there is a 6-pack or a primary flight display. So there's a very basic airspeed, attitude, altitude, turn coordinator, compass kind of, and the vertical speed instruments, or you have it like this here. It doesn't really work in all aircraft. With standard aircraft you get all the readouts correctly. With some other aircraft you will not see all the values properly displayed. So here's the aircraft status. The speed is 0 knots. The altitude, it gives us the pitch trim here. We can actually reset the elevation trim to 0 by pressing that button. The barometric pressure is 10,015. Now if you click here, it will set it to what the current pressure is. In this case 948, or you can set it to the default value, which I think is the same here. Then there's the flaps position. You can actually move the flaps here. You can set the parking brake by clicking here, and that means that it will activate the parking brake. You can even arm the spoilers, but that doesn't work here very well, because arm is basically it more or less being fully deployed, and that's not really what we want. Okay, so as I say, not everything works always correctly. Now one thing we can do is we can activate the APU by pressing the start button, and you can see now that something comes up here and it's basically now connected. So that's the generator. So just make sure that the APU generator is down here, and you can see all the batteries charging. If there is a differential pressure, you can actually get rid of it by pressing this button, and then you can open doors. So 4 doors, it will send the appropriate commands. And it depends very much now on what those doors are defined as. I think door 4 might not exist here. So if we quickly look around, you can see the front doors, the back door, and the cargo doors have been opened already. I think the cargo doors, yeah, the cargo doors. So it's 3 doors that are actually active here. Engine wise, there's an engine status, so you will get readouts later on. This is the position of the throttle lever, and if you are in reverse thrust mode, and then there are engine switches like anti-ice, generator, starter, engine 1 and 2. Just to show you this, if I press here, you see that the generator engine goes on and off. Now, since we do not have a running engine yet, these won't come on green. Radio and autopilot, yeah, that is something that works quite nicely here. So you can set all the frequencies and also switch between them. Yeah, you can enter a frequency here, and you have to confirm it though, and then you have to move it over. It's a little bit awkward, but it's okay. I mean, it is a way of entering stuff. Now, there's also something that is a bit yeah, not so practical, and that is you always have to delete what had been typed in before. It doesn't come with an empty field, so I would always need to make sure that I delete the previous entry, and don't forget to activate it. And now we have the transponder set. Same as with the autopilot, you can set the airspeed, for example 210. Okay, and don't forget to activate it. Only when you activate it does it come here. For the altitude, for the V-speed, for the heading hold, all the same. The auto brakes, you can turn them on, so it would move to the position 1, position 2, position 3, 4, or you bring it into the RTO position, which is called off here. It's not quite right. Okay. Flight director, master can be turned on off here, and then the wing levers are activated, and then you can turn on the respective modes like airspeed hold. Now, if you put on airspeed hold, it will actually override your value. So, lights and switches, basically navigation. The pitot heat are these switches up here. So, landing lights, beacon, strobe, taxi, recognition, logo, wing, panel and cabin. Everything will be turned on. Okay, and you can check if the cabin light is on. No, I haven't. Yeah, you can go into the time preview mode. So let's have a look. So this is, by the way, what the cockpit looks in the dark. As I say, it's a slightly modified version of the default. Unfortunately, these ISG things do stick out a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, it's not too bad. This is actually quite surprisingly nice rendition here. Yeah, and there isn't really that much in the way of lighting that you can modify, but it is better than the original, I would say. So this is the panel light, the cabin light, and this is the panel light, and this is the combination of the two. So very handy. All these light switches you can use from here. And the TCAS alert, I'm not quite sure how that works, but somehow it loads stuff in a certain distance and will give you TCAS. I have to read this again because I'm not sure I understood it. ATC control, this is actually the standard ATC window, and instead of pressing a number key, you can actually press what you want to do, tune 80s, and now it has the 80s frequency set up. So this is all you can do here with the aircraft menu. Now statistics, that's something for flight simulation and training. You basically can start the recording, and it's actually recording right now, so I'm stopping it now, and then it would record the whole flight. It would give you the statistics, altitudes, speeds, angles, airspeed, and also the approach. You can have a look later on the approach. You will see then exactly the profile that you have been flying on the approach. So quite interesting. Haven't used that yet. Network. Now here you have the possibility to link remote simulators to the FS-FlightControl. That means you do not have to have FS-FlightControl on the same PC. You can actually run it on a different machine, and it would be able to connect over the network, would be able to connect with the simulator and do whatever you've seen. Okay. Motion. Now, there used to be this Brunner dedication and innovation device for motion devices, elevator and so on. This is probably a simulation device. Now I don't have that, and I don't use that. Pushback. So why not try a little pushback? Let's cancel the weather again. Let's do it bright again, and let's also get rid of this thing here. Close. Right. So let's assume, or maybe let's have a look. So where are we here? What way would we need to? We need to push back. Basically, we need to push back. This is a 45 degrees angle or so. So the whole distance, let's say 150 feet. The turn angle is actually 45. So the tail would go we would actually, no, I think it's the wrong one. Forty-five straight after turn, 10 feet, push facing northeast. So you can set up quite a few parameters, then you press this button and it will immediately begin with the pushback. We should have really closed the doors, but nothing that we can't do now. So let's see if I got it right, at least roughly. So it's still pushing on the straight line here. Yeah, maybe 45 degrees isn't really enough, but we shall see. It's turning it now. Ah, well, not too bad, and nothing that can't be rectified by just another push. So we could actually start this again and then get kind of rolled out here. Yeah, it's not perfect, and I would say that GSX, if you have it, is definitely a better pushback option, and not to mention the better pushback plugin in X-Plane. Absolutely fabulous thing. GSX, eat your heart, because you can learn a lot from that tool. Well, anyway, so that's the pushback. You can stop at any moment, okay, and it's a handy feature if you do not have GSX and co, and you can sort of get your aircraft out in sort of something like style without it being too bad. Fuel load. This aircraft is filled up to the brink, so what we can do here is we can actually say we need only 5 tons of fuel. Don't forget to confirm, and then it's spreading the fuel over the 4 tanks. That's the way it does it, and there you go. You got your stuff. The same with the payload. You can actually spread the payload over quite a few areas, so pilots and stuff. I find this a little bit, I wonder why they didn't provide a overall payload thing and let it distribute. So with the current one, we have a center of gravity of 21%, which looks quite good. It gives us an empty weight of 38.8 tons. The payload is 10.3 tons. The zero fuel weight is 49.2 tons plus the 5 tons, makes a gross weight, takeoff weight of 54.2 tons. Very handy because you get your numbers shown there immediately. Okay, I actually forgot what freeze current fuel level mean. Okay, freeze and pause, they are basically holding things. I'm just not sure what freeze does. I need to read this up in the manual again, but pause is the well-known pause function in the simulator. Right, let's get to the settings, because there's quite a few things that we need to cover here. First of all, simulator related settings, simulator. Currently I'm in prepared, which it also says currently active. But I have another one set up, it's called X-Plane. If I would move to X-Plane, which I can do here, in order to use it for X-Plane, I need to activate the simulator, as it's called here. I need to press this button, and then I need to exit FS-FlightControl, start the other simulator, and from then on we are in X-Plane. So you need to switch and restart when you switch your simulator. But if you do so, here it uses its own database, because it basically looks at the navigation database of X-Plane, and you can build it here. And there is an automatic detection of the X-Plane thing. There's nothing you need to do. There's no plugin you need to load, nothing. It immediately will know where your X-Plane is and will connect. And we can have a look at that later, or maybe in the third part. We'll see. Position. For scenery load, no, let's go back to prepared actually. So now I've turned this off because on short-term movements at an airport, it will actually not reload the scenery. That makes things a little bit easier, but it can lead to strange results. So yep, if you're planning to move a lot around the airport, you may want to turn this off, but I turn it back on again. Conditions, we get the default flight simulator weather or active sky. I'm actually switching now to active sky because I have started it, active sky 16. And then there's all kinds of third-party stuff that you can connect to. You can connect to ProSim. This is a set of avionics. AST is for, I think, Airbus stuff. This is also payware avionics stuff. Project Magenta, relatively expensive. Also Flight Sim Labs. So this is the path to the Flight Sim Lab Airbus. If you put this in, you can use it with your Flight Sim Labs. That's FS Labs, right? Yeah, your FS Labs Airbus. Then Brunner Electronic. This is some kind of motion platform thingy. We don't have that. Active Sky. It connects via a specific port. PFPX, it's able to read the schedules, text file, and pull the flights from it. The Aerosoft Airbus, it actually, so that it is able to store flight plans and things like that. The Wilco Airbus, if you actually have it in the old FSX world, there's an fmgc.config file that it can use, and there's the Mindstar Garmin 1000 simulator thingy. You can even connect to that bit. What the Flight 1 is, let me see, this is also some weird tool that I am not aware of. Just let me quickly call up the help. When you press on those little question marks, you will actually be brought to the web page. And it says for Flight 1, it says the host or IP as well as the port that should be used to connect to Flight 1 Viz Pro Flight Simulator plugin. Whatever that is, I have no idea. But it gives you quite a few options here to connect to third-party stuff. Now if we go back to the simulator, there's the main settings. So where are all your simulator files? In the documents folder, prepared version 3. This is, for example, the root files. Here it gives you an indication of what database. We are on 1709. We're a little bit outdated again because now it's October. And I can reload, and I can actually have Navigraph update the cycle here. And then there are some folders it needs in order to build this database, the prepared database. So it looks through those configuration files and finds all the sceneries. And the SimConnect is either to a local flight simulator, or if it's to a remote flight simulator, you need to enter the host IP and the port in order to be able to connect to a remote flight simulator. So not running the two on the same machine. Aircraft related settings. So first of all, aircraft profile. You can actually create profiles with sets of settings. Okay, and these profiles you can then assign aircraft to. So at the moment we have the default currently active, and there are a number of aircraft in this profile, the ones that I've used already, but you could also switch things around. Now don't ask me what jetway blah blah and so on are. I have no idea. I need to read on this profile thing a bit more, but this tool offers a number of possibilities to kind of store the state of play of certain aspects and then recall them again, which I find quite good. That's the position on short final, long final. So this is a very elaborate thing you can set here. Map colors, so use aircraft and so on. There are different profiles you can switch. Okay. Map other, there's a map zoom below AGL. So if you're on the ground, it has a different zoom factor than when you're above 25,000 feet. Show user aircraft only as square instead of an airplane. Show AI aircraft only as square. Show vector for user area. For user aircraft, show vector for AI aircraft. Yeah, if you turn this on, we can check this in a moment. Show afterglows for user aircraft, show afterglows for AI aircraft. I'm not sure what we need the afterglows for. We can turn them on and have a look at what this looks like. Now I'm going to turn on AI aircraft. And as you can see, maybe we should take away the text. That's probably the afterglows. That's these lines here, so that you actually see what heading these aircraft are trying to take here. So that's the vector thing. And afterglow, I think we can turn out. Reposition, turn on after reposition, auto zoom and center aircraft. Switch altitude, flight level above 5,000. Okay, and the maximum zoom for the compass rose, you can change this so that the compass rose is is covering a bigger area. Pushback is the speed with which it will push back, and the turn radius. Failures, use flight simulator failures. If you have GHEL or Project Magenta or ProSim AST, Mindstar or the Flight 1 G1000, then you're able to specify use those failures. So at the moment it is kind of bound to use the inbuilt flight simulator failures. Aircraft warnings when pitch up is higher than 30 degrees, pitch down angle 15 degrees, bank angle 30 and vertical speed 4,000. Speed below altitude 10,000 is 250. And again, aircraft specific options none, unless you have something for GHEL, ProSim or AST. The aircraft gauge options show indicated airspeed, choose airspeed or ground speed. Now I had some strange things. I don't think that the PFD or the speed works very well, not with all aircraft. Show flaps position as degrees. If we turn this off, let's have a look. So what did I say? Aircraft gauges, 6-pack. Yeah, I don't really know what we have to look for now. Okay, so that's those settings. Statistics, interval between the track points, so this is how often or how much it should record. Other settings, the position, pause after position change, because when you change position, you might want to have the simulator pause so that you can establish yourself and then continue. You could prevent the flight plan from being saved with the flight situation, but why would you want to do that? Then map related, there's a default refresh rate once per second, and here you can change all kinds of things like print options, on what printer it should come out, display options, show map scale, cursor position, frames per second, auto recenter. Here's the VATSIM IDs you could provide if you want a more specific, if you want to see yourself and things like that when you're online. I'm not going to do that now, but that's something you can put in. Conditions, here you can specify what cut 1, cut 2, cut 3 and so on conditions should be look like, and where does the real-time weather come from. In this case I have it on VATSIM, not on NOAA, which makes sure that I get the same weather as on the VATSIM service. Failures, the color settings, and automatically enable random failures after program restart. Statistics, this is coloring and so on, and for printing. Network, that's the FS-FlightControl client, that's whatever wants to connect here should be connecting via port 2047. Program close option, no action on program close, shutdown, hibernate, sleep, and we all want that, so it shouldn't do anything when we shut it down. Status page for web display. Output directory status page for web display. So there is a web what? Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, there is some kind of web page. Interesting. Local host :80. Oh yeah, look at that. So there is actually a web page. So in theory I could put this into OBS as an overlay. I tried this already and it didn't really work. But you could put this on so that other people with browsers or other small like mobile devices could actually see where you are. It's not really something that I see as very useful. You can also start this page method, save it as an HTML file or upload to FTP server. If you save it as an HTML file, it can be used by the likes of OBS, or it can be uploaded to some FTP server from where it can be picked up. Mobile devices, the port is 2046, and I actually have two IP addresses due to two interfaces. Mobile app update rate, sort of medium, and the connection timeout. And here it points you to the respective applications. So altitude unit is feet, short distance feet, knots, Celsius, nautical miles, kilograms, hectopascal, meters and kilograms, and you can change this if you are flying in the US or so. Oh yeah, here it is. Enable touch input helper. Let's turn this off. This is what I was looking for actually, because it is a bit not so practical for me. What have I changed now? I can show you by going somewhere where we radio and autopilot. So see that? Now I can enter the value without this thing popping up, because these pop-ups are for touch devices, and I don't really need this. Yeah, if I use it on the iPad, it is a bit easier if I can enter, because this is quite small and it might be difficult to hit it, and that's what this touch thing is for. Right, and we are through here with all the settings. Now the last thing that I'm going to show you is the failures. And I am rather surprised as to this whole failure thing. Now, there is core system failures, fuel leaks, gaps and flaps, panel, and random failures. And it will actually differ from simulator to simulator. So these are the failures in prepared. In X-Plane, there are actually far more, and they do actually work. So here what you can do is you can fail your engine, you can create an engine fire, electrical system failures, hydraulic system failure, vacuum system failure, and you can time it or set it to an altitude or to an airspeed, and or immediately if you want. Fuel leak, so your fuel tank will lose fuel. You can have some problems with the gears, and you can disable partially. For example, I can disable the airspeed. It's now, well, we can't see it now, but we would once we go there. But I can disable that failure again, and it will be back. And then random failures, all the possible failures that you can do for this aircraft, you can randomize it, and yeah, that means it could hit you anytime. So really nice tool. I really like it, and so far I haven't really regretted paying that much money for it, because I think it's a very handy thing to have. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, in a third part, I'm going to show you this tool with X-Plane, just to give you a hint of how it works there and what does work and what doesn't work. Until next time.